Dashboards are the last type of document we will build in the class. Dashboards are just a different type of markdown document. They're HTML based, and but there's more flexibility in sort of what can go into it. You can put in the Shiny apps, you can put in other things. You can format them a little bit differently than you would, for example, just an HTML page. And they're designed to sort of give you all these different formats to place things, multiple pieces of information that you might want to put on the, the user's interface to be able to see. So in terms of the setup, it's almost the same as any other Markdown document. The only difference will be in the formatting aspect of it. So let's go ahead and start that. All we need to do is do File, New File, and we can go and do our Markdown here, and then it's going to tell us the options that we want to use. So let's go into our Markdown, and in the document we can then see these options. So if we start from template, look in the templates, you see this Flex Dashboard. We can do a few other things, these themes, all of these other options that that'll give you some sort of template to get started. Let's just click on this Flex Dashboard one, okay, and it's going to set up a dashboard template. And let's notice just a couple of things that are different from what we've seen in other R Markdown documents. First, the output is a Flex Dashboard, and then there are these aspects that talk about the format of the dashboard, and then in here you see the package is Flex Dashboard. So we're using this Flex Dashboard package. We have to decide some format options, and then the same sort of thing happens as in other documents. These hashtag, pound signs, number signs indicate sections, and then there's this other part that we haven't seen previously, and these are there to tell us about what the layout of the dashboard would be. Now there are tons of options. We'll just go over a few of them. If you just Google search a Flex Dashboard R, you'll see some options here. We'll just look at a couple of them to help you understand what's there. So this Chapter 5 book down, someone has written about these dashboards and how to use them. So if you go in here, it'll tell you about how you do the layout on the dashboards, what the components, different parts you can put on the dashboard, how to use Shiny in dashboard, and some other things. So that's a great way to get started and find sort of options that are available to you. There are also examples that you can go use. So this one is pretty good. So if we open that, it gives you a bunch of options and or dashboards that others have used that can sort of give you some examples. So for example, this clustering one that we've done some of that, it'll open the dashboard and you can look through and see what's available. This one uses Shiny R in it, which then can make selections and update this here. It's a really simple one. You can have other ones that have multiple tabs and multiple pages, different, well, that one I guess no longer is maintained. So ones that you can then use to sort of map sort of what you are interested in. So notice this one has some tabs that you can go through, different pages basically that you can see the outputs, and one of those is the input for the Shiny app part. So lots of different options that you could work with. If you want to know what it looks like, you can go into the code and look and see sort of all the parts that go into this. So lots of resources if you're interested in sort of exploring and doing more with Dashboard. We'll go back and just look a little bit at the book down book that talked about dashboards, and then we'll go through some of this here. So in the first part of this book, part of this chapter, it says layout here. So the layout is the basic difference between what we've done in the other documents and in a dashboard document. So we already saw that we need to use the Flex dashboard, and then here it talks about how we use these different levels. So first level section means one number sign, that creates a new page. Second level means two number signs, creates a column or row, and third level creates a box, which is the basic component of a dashboard. So let's see what that looks like in this example here. So based on what we just said, this third level creates a box. This column with these lines under it, that is equivalent to having two number signs. So let's knit this one, and then I'll show you how that works. So the same as a dashboard we do before. I'm going to go in and save this. And this is just the sample one, so it's not going to be a very interesting dashboard. But it'll run, prepare it, and then open it in a web browser. Well, the R's web browser. You can directly open it in the browser here. And notice it created the title up here. That was in the top of the, let me open that up here. So that's this up here. And chart A, if we look over here, this is a box, so it created a chart A, and then chart B and C, which are splits here. So this is chart B, chart C, and we had one column here and another column here with the two boxes in this column. Well, this here says the data width of this column is 650, this one is 350. So these are, this one's going to be bigger than this one, and that's what we see in the column outputs. Well, we can create those columns instead of these lines, we can create them in another way. So let's start with the easiest. Let's create a page. So the highest level is a single number sign. So we'll put this, everything else we already saw on the second page. Let's just see what that looks like. So now notice we have the first page, nothing is on it because we haven't put anything there. We go to the second page, it's exactly what we saw before. So let's change the first page around a little bit, and then we can start to see sort of what comes out of this. So the first page, let's create, and notice we're in column orientation. So when we do the second level, that's going to create columns. So first column. And let's create a third level as well. And we can knit that. So we should see on the first page 2 columns with a box in each one. So that opens, notice box 1, box 2, it just spreads them out equally. If we wanted to adjust them, we could use the other setup to tell it to do tell it the width of those boxes. And let's do the same sort of setup. Let's add another box here. And we see what comes out of that. So now we have two boxes over here. And if we want to adjust the size of those columns, we can do the same sort of thing down here. So let's change this one, let's say to 750. This one to 250. And it's going to make the first column wider, the second column not as wide. And so now we've started to mess around with these. Now, compared to the other documents we've done, or referring to those other documents, everything we've done in the other documents we can now do in the dashboard setup. So if you created tables or graphs, we can do the same thing here. So for to sort of make sure we do that, we'll go over that in just a minute, but I want you to see another layout. So if we want to switch this then to row orientation, then all of our columns are now going to be rows. So we'll still have the first page and the second page here, but now instead of first column, this is going to be first row. Same things are going to apply to these. So if we want to change that into a row, we can. It's not actually going to matter, but we could name this row here. And we'll see that everything flips direction. So now we have first row, second row. The boxes are split evenly on the second row. Same thing here, first row, second row. So you can keep messing around with all of these variations that we can put things in. But now let's try and put in some content to the dashboard. I'm just going to go back to the PDF document we did before, and I'm going to read in this data set and do some graph stuff with it. So let's say I might first create some data up here. I'm going to take this out and then, I'm going to do it as easy as possible. So let's say I want to put this graph in the first box here. And I could keep my data set preparation up here if I wanted. And then I won't have to do it down here. And so I'm just going to do the same graph that we had before. And now it has to actually, now it's reading in this data. So notice this was within R code. Oh, except for, I guess that's a good example. Notice what's missing is it needs the dplyr package that I didn't have in there before, and it needs the ggplot package. So once I put those in the setup here, now it's going to have the packages that I need to use. I'm going to read in the data here and then summarize the data and then create this plot. So it should go in the first row box here. So there we go. We've got in box 1 is this plot, and we can keep doing this through any of the boxes, however we want to set this up. Let's just add a little bit more so you can see sort of how this works. So then let's say down here I wanted to just describe what I have above. So put in some text here. We could put in more R code here. Nothing sort of spectacular about it, but you can add anything in these sections. So text, on its own, or R code with output within the R chunks, and walk through sort of how this works. So notice now we have text down here, we have a graph up here, and we can keep adding whatever we want in the same way we would in another document here. Let's add one more piece. If we wanted to create a dashboard, a Shiny component to the dashboard, it's just like doing a Shiny app, but now it's going to be held within the dashboard. So we can go back to the online book here that talks about dashboards, and we can see this Shiny part. So if we go to Shiny, it's going to talk to us about what are the things we need to add. So notice this part here, Runtime Shiny, that's going to be the main piece that we need to add. And then we can add some other pieces. So this is just a format of where we're putting things, not really necessary, but it sets it up as a sidebar versus the main thing. And that's putting this input in the main thing, and then it's adding a new column. So we don't need this particularly. So let's try and use the same sort of framework we've already used. So I'm going to put this Shiny part in there, then we'll add a sidebar and a main column, and we'll see if we can sort of replicate what's here. So let's create I guess let's just do a third page here. Third page Shiny. And remember, the piece that we needed to add is the Runtime Shiny part. So we're going to go ahead and add this at the top. So this is underneath this Flex Dashboard part. So Runtime Shiny, telling it we need to use Shiny when we go to do this. Then in the third page, we'll just keep the format we were using before. So to create a column, we can use this setup sidebar. And really this is just a quick way to create a small column on the left. Then we can create another one. So now the pieces that we want to put in there are R chunks that do the same setup that we talked about in the Shiny video. So I'm just going to copy what the other the example document had, but we could do this with any data we have. So I'm going to copy this in here. This is to get this data sets part that has this faithful data set. Not really necessary in terms of, if we want something else. So we could just read in our own data if we wanted. I'm just going to sort of make it a little quick here. Then I'm going to copy the same part that goes in the sidebar, which is for making the selections. And then so this is how we select. Remember, we had different ways to select information. So here it's selecting input. And then we need to have an output also. And here it's a render plot. So this is going to go in the main column. So then when we knit that, it's going to create the Shiny part on the third page. So, the more you add, the more it takes a little bit of time to sort of get it created. But in a minute, it should be here. All right, almost there. So we've got this stuff on the first page. On the third page, notice now we have this selection and these two selectors that it's going to affect the plot output. So we can do the same thing with any Shiny app that we want to put into a dashboard. All right, that is sort of the overview of dashboards. There are lots of other options that you could use to make it look, to format it differently, or do different things on there just like we had before. But this should get you started on a basic dashboard.